I know y'all gonna be in the comments on this one because how could you not? Hello and welcome back. I have been promising this video and it is finally here. Let's talk about how much this renovation has cost us so far. So this will probably be a part one because we're not actually done with the work, but we are entering a place where we're getting to the pretty finishing parts. So I figured we'll save that part for part two because that involves a lot of Celia having feelings about buying things and costing out light fixtures and stuff like that. And this part will be a bit more of the nuts and bolts. People say when you renovate a house, the basement is where you're going to spend all your money, and that's true. So this is the part that no one talks about but actually costs the most. Now, as I talk, if you see me look over this way, it's because I have a spreadsheet pulled up because although I have an excellent memory, I can't remember every single cost of every single thing. So let's start at the top. We closed on the house in mid-July, and honestly, the day of closing was the same day I had my friend Josh come over to walk through the house so we could talk about what needed to be done. It's what's today?
12th.
Wednesday?
12th.
Wednesday, July the 12th. My hair look cute from the back?
Can't really see it because it's dark.
Okay, now does my hair look cute?
It's still dark.
Wednesday, July the 7th.
It's the 12th.
Wednesday, July the 12th.
There's another story about that.
9:30 a.m. We just sent the money to finalize the purchase of our first house. I'm saying first.
Look what she drinking.
First house. I started
It's 9:30 in the morning.
with the Clearly Canadian.
In
It's
the home
basically
buying
a
market.
LaCroix. It's basically a LaCroix. I'm excited. I'm terrified. When you guys see this house, you're gonna be like, oh my God, what was y'all thinking? We have no idea. We're about to embark on a journey. Sean was so nice and made the nice lady some coffee.
She didn't even drink my coffee.
She didn't even drink her coffee.
She didn't even look at it.
We did it.
We bought a house, y'all.
We bought a house, guys.
More to come.
I've said in other videos that I have a friend, Josh, who has flipped houses in the years that I lived in New York and become a bit more of an expert than I obviously was because I and Sean have never done anything like this before. And Josh was nice enough to say, it's okay, I'll help you. We can use the trades that I use, people I trust, and I'll help you guys through the process. And we continue to be forever grateful for Josh and his help. So we closed on the house in July. I've toyed with telling you guys how much we paid for the house, but ultimately I'm just going to share this part so that you guys have a well-rounded view of what this total thing costs when we're finally done. So for the house we purchased, which is a 2-family side-by-side duplex with 5 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, and 1 bath per side, we paid $150,000. Now $150,000 means different things to different people and in different cities. For us, where we are in Cleveland, that's actually a really good price. Comparable houses that didn't need work, that were move-in ready, are selling anywhere from $250,000 to $310,000. So $150,000 for this house was actually a really good deal. It needed some work, and that's why it was priced the way it was. The asking price was actually $180,000. Our initial offer was $160,000, and then after having a home inspection, we finally put in our last offer at $150,000, and it was accepted. So we did, of course, have a home inspection before we closed so that as we went into the work, we had as much information as we could have. Now, what's also important to note about where we purchased our house is that the city will do something that's called a point of sale or POS inspection. So when buying or selling homes or property in the city where we are, this point of sale or POS will tell you all of the things the city has deemed a fine or wrong with the property that has to be fixed. Now, you can either buy a house where the seller will take care of some of the POS violations and pass some on to the buyer. You have houses where it'll come POS free because the seller has already taken care of all of the violations, or like in our case, the buyer assumes all POS violations. And that's what we did. We knew going into this that there were going to be things that we had to do to the house in order for the city to say the house is okay. And attached to that POS becomes some money. So you have to put money in escrow, which is just a financial incentive to say, yes, I will fix the things that the city has deemed needs to be fixed about the house. We can see the POS report before we purchase the house, and the things that were on there were things that we were likely going to do anyway. So for us, we felt okay taking on those point of sale violations. There's the background. We now own the house. Where do we start? Well, we start with demo. And the thing that we see a lot on the internet is people doing their own demo. Well, there wasn't really a ton of demo to be done, but also we've never done anything like that before. So we're really handing all of this off to tradespeople who do this for a living. Luckily, the house didn't have a whole lot of stuff in it. Like there were no couches or beds or furniture or anything like that that needed to be cleared away. There was like 1.5 kitchens, 1.5 bathrooms kind of left in the house in terms of like a refrigerator, a stove, a couple toilets. But we had decided that everything in the kitchens and bathrooms were going to go. So we started there. Also in the kitchens and bathrooms, we were taking the floors down to the original wood floors. So everything's coming out. In the kitchen, there was some discussion on whether we were going to initially take the walls down to the studs. And at first we were saying, you know, some of the walls might be smooth enough to be saved, because in the end we want these spaces to look as smooth and nice as possible. But once we started taking this down and taking that down, it kind of turned into the kitchens and baths have to go down to the studs, which they did. So demo labor was one of the costs incurred. Then all of that trash, you know, all of the stuff you're pulling out has to go somewhere. So for us, we got a dumpster, and that also incurred a cost. So for the labor of the demo, our costs were $2,950, and then we paid $700 for a dumpster to be delivered, filled, and taken away. So our demo total was $3,650 the first go round. Because what nobody tells you is like, you're gonna have to haul trash away multiple times during a renovation, but we'll get to that. So now the walls everything's been ripped out of the house, and we can start putting things back together. So next up was electrical. Now, when we are putting the house back together, we're kind of working from 3 lists. We're working from the POS list of things the city says we have to do. We're working from a list of things our home inspectors suggested that we should do. And then we're working from a list of things that we want for the house that we're going to live in. So like just renovation requests and desires. So for the electrical, some examples of those things would be the POS stated that we had to have GCFI outlets, which are just the outlets with the like reset button in the basements and bathrooms and kitchens. An example on the home inspection list would be our bathroom vents weren't venting to, our shower vents weren't venting to the exterior of the house. They were venting into the roof space. So we wanted to change that. And then example of just stuff we wanted, making sure each room had enough outlets. The outlets that I added in that little butler's pantry in the back, changing the location of the light switch for the light in the butler's pantry. It was initially all the way in the kitchen. We moved it closer to the back door, adding electrical to our garage so that we can have an electric garage door, adding an outlet up on the shelf that I'm going to put in the kitchen, adding overhead lighting in some of the rooms that didn't have it. Those are some examples of things from each of those lists. So our electrician's estimate on, you know, once we totaled up all the things that had to be done, was $10,300. That was his number when we started. We've since added a few things. Have made that number higher, but we haven't gotten a final number yet. But just know our budget number when starting with the electrical was $10,300. So next up was plumbing. Our initial plumbing list wasn't that long because someone had lived in the house fairly recently, so we assumed that the plumbing was mostly okay. That turned out to not be the case. So a real point of contention since we bought this house and started sharing these house and our plans with the internet has been the bathrooms. So each side of this house does have 5 bedrooms, which is a lot of bedrooms, but they only had 1 bathroom, and myself included thought that that wasn't enough bathrooms. However, when we first started the plan, we were like, adding a bathroom in this room on the first floor makes the most sense. However, budgetarily, speaking, it just couldn't happen. One side did have a toilet in the basement with no sink, and we said, okay, well, at the very least, we'll just add a sink, and so one side will be 1.5 baths and the other side will just be a single bath. In adding that sink to one side, our plumber discovered a massive crack in the pipe in the floor of our basement that leads all of the wastewater out to the sewer to the street, and it resulted in our floor being jacked up and it being this like massive hole and a much bigger job than we initially anticipated. In the end, we're glad that it happened, because if there was a big crack or some major issue, we of course would rather have that issue addressed before we move in and not start living in the house, start flushing toilets, using sinks, and things not drain correctly, and it be an ongoing persistent issue. So we got that part fixed, got the sink put in. In fixing that side, our plumber went over to the other side's basement and in connecting, make sure the connections were okay and that the clear out was okay, discovered a second massive crack. So once I saw him jackhammering the floor of the basement on the other side, I said, okay, well, if we're putting a hole in the floor, we might as well just put a bathroom in. So we've ended up putting a bathroom, a half bath with a toilet and a sink on both sides. So each side will be a 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath unit. That being said, our plumbing number went from an $8,000 job to a almost $20,000 job. This is another place where we don't have a final number. However, to date, we've paid the plumber $15,000. There's an additional about $4,000 that will go his way. So in total, we will have paid the plumber about $19,000. Now, if I had to pick a place where my skeptical brain said, I don't know, did we really? You know, this is where taking on a job like this can be such a big deal, because if this was a plumber that we had just found online or had come recommended and we hired ourselves and he was saying to us, oh yeah, you got this, you got that, you got this, you got that, you might feel like, this plumber might be playing me a little bit. And I'm not saying that the plumber played us. I'm saying that my friend Josh has used this plumber a lot. He trusts him, and if he trusts him, then we trust him. But if I had to pick a place, I'm not a plumber, so I don't know. But child, we went from $8,000 to $19,000. Okay, so that was the plumbing number. Moving on. Now, moving outside for a second, our POS violation sheet said that we had to take some of the trees on the property down. So that was something that we went ahead and took care of earlier on in the process because it was summertime. So getting it done was pretty easy. So we had 2 medium trees in our front lawns removed simply because they weren't in the best condition. We were concerned that the root system would eventually cause more issues with our plumbing. So took those down. There was also a lot of overgrowth and vegetation in the front of the house that we wanted to clear out and start fresh in the spring and summer. And then in the back, there was a really large tree that was really half dead that the city deemed had to come down, as well as a lot more overgrowth of vegetation. So our landscaping total to get all of that stuff done was $4,700. Also outside, we had to make some exterior repairs, again, based on what the POS told us that we had to do, and in preparation for eventually painting the house in the spring. Now, I think looking at the exterior, we're gonna have to do some more. There's gonna be places that we are gonna wanna do some more too. But for now, we're just handling the things that the POS told us that we had to do. And then in the spring, once we realize where we land budgetarily, we can make decisions on things that might not have to be fixed, but we decide that we do want to fix. So in the exterior, we had to replace some ceilings on the porches. We had to fix some gutters because it was causing some rot to happen on the exterior of the house. The gutter was just totally messed up, like moss was growing in the brick. It was really a not great situation. There was also some repairs that had to happen on the garage, some spindles on the back porches, as well as handrails dictated by the city on the front stairs. So in conjunction with the exterior repairs, when we demoed the bathroom, we discovered windows in the showers. We are not window cover-up people. They have been covered up by shower surrounds. We don't do shower surrounds, and we don't cover up windows if we can avoid it. Now, all of the windows in the house have to be replaced. They need to be replaced, and the city has said that they have to be replaced. We're planning to work with the city on a lead-free program to help offset the cost of replacing the windows. However, in the bathroom, in order to finish the bathroom totally to tile, we would have to replace those windows ourselves. So for the exterior work, that includes repairing the spindles, repairing the garage, repairing the porch ceilings, and adding a handrail on the front of the house as deemed by the city. The labor cost was $1,750 and with a total material cost of $800. That includes the window as well. Our gutter repair cost was $1,425. So let's recap where we are really quickly. We have an electrical number, a plumbing number, a landscaping number, an exterior repair / bathroom windows, as well as a gutter repair. And our total for those things so far are, I'm hoping I didn't leave anything out, but that number is $41,725. And we still got lots to go. So, ooh, look, I look at the spreadsheet fairly regularly, but girl, saying these numbers out loud, my gosh. Okay, let's keep going. Still in the basement. Our home inspector told us that we needed a chimney liner. Now, I can tell you guys what the chimney liner has something to do with CO2 and the furnace. I'll be honest, I don't really remember. Probably at the time I didn't fully understand, but he impressed upon us that it was something we probably wanted to look into. Additionally, the floor on the renter side had a pretty severe sag. The house was constructed in 1920 and one long joist was used to go across a big part of the floor, and over time it has started to sag. So we needed to put in a chimney liner, and we needed to shore up, we wanted to jack up the floor to reduce that sag. Once someone came over to look, of course it was like, yeah, I see where we could fix this sag, and I'm noticing that there's a little bit of sag happening on the other side as well, and some places where I see that this could in the future become a problem, over time. So we ended up having poles put in on both sides just to help support that floor joist. It wasn't something that we had to do, but something that we wanted to do just cosmetically and, to prolong the life of the house. The chimney liner, I can't fully explain. Not gonna try, but I do have a number for all of that work. This number will also include some new duct work. So in both basements, there was some old duct work, some tiny spots of asbestos, which is common around older duct work. So we had that asbestos removed and the duct work replaced, along with the chimney liner and the floor joist support. And that number came to $9,150. So just as we said, the basement can really be where you spend a lot of your money. Basements, kitchens, and bathrooms. That's what was said to us. And from our experience, that's what's turning out to be true. $9,000, my gosh. Okay, so you guys watch me agonize and plan and shop for IKEA kitchens. Now, what you didn't see is that offline, I built kitchens across several different kitchen builders. What could I do with the space that I had, with the cabinets that they had available? How much was it gonna cost? What were the cabinet front options? And ultimately, I decided to go with IKEA kitchen cabinets. And I think in that video, I did share the cost, but for our kitchen cabinets, they came to a total of $5,097. That includes delivery. And then the renter's side came to $3,441. There was one piece that was out of stock. I don't remember which kitchen it was for. I think it was for ours. That later came in at $70 and it shipped separately. And I had to call IKEA because that piece was out of stock. They later sent me an email like, hey, this is in stock, you should go ahead and buy it. I bought it, but it charged me shipping again, another $70, $69.99 for shipping. And I had to call like, excuse me, I just spent like $8,000 with you. I think it's ridiculous that I would have to pay $70 to ship one cabinet piece that costs $70. So they refunded the shipping cost. But anyway, that brings our kitchen cabinet purchase to $8,608. Okay, we are nearing the end. The next thing was paint, and that was always a thing we knew was going to be a major game changer in terms of seeing the house as somewhere we could actually live, because most of the rooms just needed a fresh coat of paint. When I get into this number, there's one thing you should bear in mind. We are renovating 2 houses. I keep saying that. I keep saying a lot of the same things. We're renovating 2 houses, so that means we have to paint a lot of square footage. We decided to go with a painter who specializes in paint and would get all of the supplies themselves. So our painters painted all of the interior walls and baseboards, and they are also going to come back and paint the ceiling of the basement, and that number was $11,100. $11,000 on paint. Yes. Yeah. For that number, they also painted all of the doors that we purchased, as well as the front doors to each unit and that front vestibule area when you first come in the front door. So it was a lot of paint, a lot of caulk, a lot of priming, but yeah, $11,000. And then the last thing is the thing we talked about in last week's video, and that was the doors. So we ended up going with the 3-panel doors from Menards, and then for the renter side, a bit of a less expensive option on a 6-panel door from Home Depot. It was a journey. You should watch that video. But I did not think about hinges, knobs, or door stops. So really it took me about another week or so to really land on doorknobs and hinges, and I still left out door stops. I've since purchased those separately. But yeah, knobs, if you're not going for something kind of very standard or basic, surprisingly get expensive. The gold knobs that I went with on our side were about $40 a knob, and I only put those on that second floor for the 3 bedrooms and the bathroom because $40 a knob is aggressively priced. And then I got a really pretty one that's gonna go in our dining room. Sean really loves a glass knob, so I found a gold one that kind of had the same vibe as the other gold ones but had a glass knob, and I think that one was $50. So all said, doors, hinges, and knobs, and this is so far because like I said in last week's video, I do have a few more doors to purchase, but so far the total there is $2,771, and that is just the material cost. We of course have to pay someone to hang those doors. So along with hanging all of the doors, the price for labor was tied into prepping the bathroom for tile. So that's putting sheetrock on the floors and on the walls, and that total was $6,500. That labor cost, we gotta pay people for their labor, but you can see that the labor costs always so aggressive. Already we can see that renovations are so much more expensive than I really think any of us could really guess if you've never done it before. It should be noted that I'm giving you the numbers for both houses. We're kind of renovating 2 houses at the same time, at least when it comes to the interior, right? If you were painting your 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath, like standalone home, it might not cost you $11,000. It might be half of that because you're only painting 1 house. Also, it should be noted that this house was lived in hard. I don't really think that the previous owner did that much upkeep on the house, so there are some things that we have had to fix that, you know, in a house that was more well cared for might not be the case. When I start showing you the images and stuff of the house, it should be noted that it's also not perfect, and it's not going to be. The house is 100 years old. It has largely been used as a rental. So there are some things that, looking at it, we have said to ourselves like, oh man, we really want to do this and we really want to do this because we want it to look perfect, but it's just not going to. It's going to look fabulous, but it's not going to look perfect. All right, I think that brings us up to date to where we are in the videos on the progress of the house, and it's time to give a grand total. I'm scared to say this number because, woo, it's big, and you guys can see when we get to this number that like this doesn't include any appliances, we haven't refinished the floors, we haven't replaced any windows, we haven't tiled anywhere, we haven't hung any light fixtures. Renovation costs are expensive, and labor costs really are where those numbers can get really high, and that explains why we see a lot of people trying their hand at DIY when you watch people do these renovations online. So total spent, we're at $79,754. If you add in the purchase price of the house, so far we're at $229,754. And we still have a ways to go. Hearing that number out loud is insane. But bear in mind, again, this is really for 2 houses, and one of them for us, well, the entire property for us is really an investment, but one side for sure is an investment, and one side we do intend to live on. So that's where we are so far, y'all. I know y'all gonna be in the comments on this one because how could you not? How could you not? Yeah. So when we get to the second part of this video, cost breakdown, we'll get into light fixtures and tile. My brain kind of I can't even think straight. Thank you guys for watching. I know I'll see you in the comments on this one. Appreciate you guys following along on this journey and wishing us well, and nothing but positivity has really been in the comments, so we really truly appreciate that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.